I've made this journey to our new space. For some of you, it might be the first time. For others of you, it is a new space. And thank you for finding your way and supporting my coming up to DC to do these events. I'd like to give a little introduction. For some of you, you're very familiar with my little story, but for new people, it might be interesting. I've been working with Orion, now it's more than 25 years. I had my first opening experience, hold on a second, will you turn my cell phone off? Well, I'll get it. I had my first opening experience, oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, that's okay.
I had my first opening experience at the Monroe Institute, which you might have heard of. Robert Monroe was most known for the iconic book, Journeys Out of Body. I didn't go there for that experience, and I didn't go there for a channeling experience, but that is the kind of experience I ended up having and making that kind of connection. And in a meditation there, I started to receive a lot of information about things, information for other people. And I would sort of gingerly say, I received something, would you like to hear what it was? And some of the information wasn't very meaningful to me, but each time it was meaningful to the other person. And somewhere in that experience, I heard a voice, I acknowledge that said, you are a channel, are you willing to work as a channel? And I said yes. And at that time, my only real experience about channeling was the Edgar Cayce work and Jane Roberts and the Seth work, both of whom went into very altered states when they were channeling, and both of whom were not conscious or present in that experience. They had this other place that they went to. And so I had a kind of gut reaction, and I said, well, I'm willing to do it, but I don't want to be like Jane Roberts or Edgar Cayce. I want to be present in my life. I didn't connect with Orion right then, but I had some other channeling experiences ever since then. There was writing, channeling, other kinds of receptive things. And when I finally made the link with this intelligence, this consciousness we call Orion, they referenced back to that moment and said that for us was our confirming link. Because part of my work with them is in fact that I am cognizant of what is said, and I use that word specifically because I'm not fully conscious. There is this kind of distance for me, but I do hear and comprehend everything. And in the end, that gave me the gift of being immersed in everything that the Orion consciousness has shared. I call it giving myself the ultimate graduate course, because I get to see the variations on the themes. I get to see again and again different ways to articulate again their same message, which may come in the many guises for the many people. The rootedness of the interconnection of all things. And I feel that my other part of my job in my being colleagues with the Orion group is it's up to me to try to integrate it and live this information that I've been shared with and exposed with all these years as much as I can. And as best I can isn't, of course, always perfect, but it's been an interesting journey to have these friends along with me. Let me talk a little bit about the phenomenon as I understand it. For me, Orion is a group. They are singular energies, but they merge together, and my experience is that this energy merges and comes present through me, and that the essential Elisabeth personality sort of steps aside. I don't have a lot of visuals of my work, but other people have actually shared with me that they saw that visual. Maybe that is how it is. I can only share it to you to the degree that I understand it, and maybe at another time I'll understand it differently. But the energy of Orion comes present, and you'll find that they have a somewhat different voice. I feel they have a very different energy than myself. Some people tell me that I look slightly different, and it's all slight. And a massage therapist once explained to me that I look different because they move different muscles in my face and hands, and it made me look slightly not like Elisabeth. They have a kind of broad A in their conversation. You might want to say it's a British accent, but they don't attach anything. It's not like I'm an ancient Celtic mage from another time. They really have always just presented themselves as another intelligence using this connecting process to share. And they're interested in the receiving they get from the sharing as well. It's always an interactive process. And in fact, the name Orion is not a name they called themselves, it's a name we gave them. And it's rooted in a version of an old myth in which the giant Orion guided a mortal to the sea where the seven sisters were. And the mortal was blind, and the giant was his eyes. So we like to see it as the idea of friendships from other realms of being. And that's the experience, the root of the experience I have with Orion is that it's a friendship from another realm with a different perspective. If you're new to them, you'll find that they have a very broad perspective. Their anchor is unity, the interconnection of all things. But they seem that their focus over the years has really been expressed in the personal, in often our psychological journeys, which today is how many people explore the journey of life through our personal worlds. In another time, it might have been through a ritual world, it might have been through the ways we're required to be, but self-discovery in our era very much has to do with undoing our own patterns to be freer and to find ourselves how else we can connect with each other in the world. And that has pretty consistently been one of the notes that Orion touches on. How we're going to work today is when I'm finished this little talk, if anyone wants to ask me a question about process or what it will look like today, I'll be happy to take that. I'm happy to talk with people afterwards. But when we begin, I'll close my eyes. It's a subtle process. I do work with my eyes closed. There'll be an in-breath, and then Orion will come present. And we will be recording it. And this time we're going to be videoing it, which is a first time for me. Orion will give what I call the welcoming talk. They'll talk maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour, however. And then it'll be open to your part of the day, your questions, what you might find to share. And please feel free to ask what you want to ask. They may address it. They may address it how you want them to. They may say, we don't know. But it'll be an interactive thing. And I think you'll find that if you don't ask your own question, someone else may ask your question for you. There's always a lot of synchronicity in this. And speaking of synchronicity, there's my little segue. One of the things also I wanted to just mention is I do work with Synchronicity Press, which has produced the 2 Orion books. But also we just recently published my dear friend Jerry Boyd, who's sitting here, ta-da, and his metaphysical novel, Shift Happens, a novel of awakenings. And it's in the back, and you can talk to Jerry. And it's very neat adventure of a person who has a kind of ET experience, and how he also integrates that into his own personal self-discovery and awakening of other aspects of his life. So talk with Jerry afterwards. Check the back of the book. There's some available